Welcome to the Mindfully Gay podcast, where we celebrate queer voices, connection, and consciousness. I'm John Cottrell.
And I'm Jerry Buie. In this episode, we're bringing together two generations of queer experience, looking at where we've come from, how far we've evolved, and the wisdom that connects us.
You'll hear from Quinn and Andi, two younger voices reflecting on today's queer realities, while Jerry and I revisit the roots of activism and identity that shaped our own journeys.
It's a heartfelt exchange about language, community, and how we build bridges across generations. Let's begin.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Mindfully Gay podcast. I am John, and over there is
Jerry.
And you can see, if you are watching us on the YouTubes, we have two guests with us, but let me get to that in a moment, because we just want to thank folks for chiming in with their ideas about topics. Jerry put out a little TikTok out there, and it's like, hey guys, what do you want to hear about? What do you want us to talk about? And we got a nice slew of comments and results. So thank you. We've got a nice list, and as each week goes by, we'll be looking at that list and putting a podcast.
We got a new one today.
Yeah,
I got a new one today about learning how to be in the present.
Ooh, see?
That's
really good ones, you guys.
Yeah.
So keep them.
Talk about that?
Keep them coming in. So thank you. Our topic today, and why we've got two guests today, is what can we learn from each other intergenerationally? Because we've got two youngins.
Our kids are here.
The kids are here. We have Quinn on my left, and we have Andi on my right. They are here, and how can we? I mean, I've got so many thoughts and ideas and questions on how we can kind of go about this interview or discussion. Well, not interview. We're not interviewing
Semi-interview.
A semi-interview.
It's an investigation.
Yes. Yeah. Inquiry.
Yeah.
Inquiry what minds want to know.
Maybe introductions.
Introductions. Would you like to know who's here?
Who is Andi? Who's his probation officer?
That kind of thing.
That's me. That's why I'm here.
Andi, who are you? Tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you like to do? Where are you from?
Well, I'm from Salt Lake City.
And there you go. Thank you. Thanks for joining us on the Mindfully Gay podcast.
Wait, did you start college?
Oh, I've just finished college.
Just finished, yeah.
Oh, you just graduated?
Yeah.
Just finished
I didn't know
finals,
that.
right? Yeah.
I've known Andi since he was little.
Yeah, that's kind of why I'm here, is because this old fart.
Yes.
It's going to be a long session.
Yeah.
How much time do we have?
Well, Andi, what'd you graduate in?
I just got my associate's degree in secondary education with like a focus on social science.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You're a poet?
I am a poet. I'm a poet. I am an artist. I love to write music and play guitar. That's most of what I do. I met Quinn actually in high school, but we worked together doing community outreach for the planetarium. So that was fun.
I didn't realize you guys had the planetarium in common.
Yes. When I went to college my freshman year, or maybe my sophomore year actually, I think, I because I was leaving a temporary vacancy, told Andi he should apply for the vacancy I was leaving, and that I'd give him a rec, and then we worked together for like a year about. Or something after that. Yeah, when I came back from college. Super fun. Lit a lot of things on fire.
And what about you? Are you from Utah?
Yes, I was born in Indianapolis because my parents, in their brilliant insanity, decided to have me while my mom was giving her PhD thesis.
Oh, wow.
And so when she was 8 months pregnant, she gave her PhD thesis and then had me in Bloomington, Indianapolis area, and then they moved like 5 weeks later to Utah, and I've been here ever since.
Oh, that's amazing.
We were up in Logan for like about 2 years because my mom teaches at Utah State as a folklore professor, and my dad was doing residency at the University of Utah. But because he was commuting so much more often than my mom would be, we ended up moving to the Salt Lake area. We're also not LDS, and Logan is pretty heavily Mormon, and I think they were worried about me being ostracized / isolated. So moved to the Salt Lake area, and I have been living here since. So, yeah.
And what are you doing while living here?
Well, I'm currently on medical leave from like full-time school, so I am working 2 jobs. One as an outreach educator at the planetarium, where I teach the general public about all kinds of STEAM activities, and we just kind of try to encourage curiosity and inquiry and testing things and trying again and again, because I think that's not super emphasized in public education, and it's an important skill to learn. And then I just started a second job as a barista at Buzzed Coffee Truck. Come say hi to me.
You got that?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
We're in Rose Park. I don't remember the streets exactly, but if you look us up on Instagram, we normally post where we're at, because we'll move around. So I'm working 2 jobs right now. I volunteer / am a member of a Marxist-Leninist organization called Armed Queers, which teaches mostly a lot of political theory education, but we're also doing some tenant organizing and some other things like that. And we also teach proper gun safety and things like that.
Who's your audience? Who's your clientele?
Mostly queer people.
Really?
So it's like an LGBTQ organization. I mean, anyone can join, but in general, the people that we're focused on reaching out to is just the working class, and people who do not know the rights that they should have and that they deserve. And so defending those and things like that. And I just became a member literally last Thursday. So I was they have a candidacy process, so I was doing the candidacy kind of vetting thing to see if they like me and I like them, and then we had a very formal meeting, and now I'm a member. But it's a super cool organization, and I'm happy that I joined it.
So in the queer spectrum of things, I think everyone kind of knows us as gay men.
Yeah.
How do you guys prefer pronouns? How do you guys identify?
I'm a trans man who uses he, they pronouns. I like to say I'm 75% man, 25% mystery. And that's the best way I've been able to describe it.
I like that.
Because that I after 6 years or something, 7 years of identifying as transgender, that's the most I've been able to narrow it down to.
That's about it.
What about you, Andy?
I identify as a trans masculine person. I've primarily used he, him pronouns, but I don't know. I like to identify as trans masculine or gender fluid, because I don't feel like people really understand the relationship that I have to gender when I just say I'm a trans man, because it's more complex than that.
Right.
I've spent my entire life thinking about gender. I don't want people to gloss over that because I identify as a man. So.
That's real. That's fair. I think if I say more than trans mask or trans man, then I end up having a 5-minute rant of well, let me explain my entire process of
right. Let me stand up and give my dissertation.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. But I do identify as a gay man. So.
I think I use queer more generally because I think gender tends to play a lot into my sexuality, and also whether someone has explored their gender or not, because I am situationship with a cis man, but he did think he was a woman for a year. He's just a bottom. But I just appreciate that he wanted
just a bottom.
Just a bottom.
Well, not just a bottom. He is a bottom, but not a woman. But I appreciate that he had the introspection to think about it and explore that and discern whether it was sexuality or gender that was affecting his relationships with people.
Yeah.
And I think that takes a lot of bravery in some respects, especially with assigned male at birth people or AMAB people.
And I think it's important too. Like I've known Andy his entire life. His great grandmother is a personal friend and actually an elder and teacher of mine. And then Quinn has been part of our kind of social circle, spiritual circle, through Andy's invitation to come to Lodge and stuff like that. So don't know you. You know, if you were wet and naked, I might know you better.
That's later.
So this is the first time we've had like a sit-down conversation, really.
Yeah, so thanks for joining us. And I think the last thing we may want to share is our ages, since we're talking about...
Fuck you!
We're talking about intergenerational just knowledge and information and what we can learn from each other. So maybe age would be an interesting factor to put on the table as a way to identify, like, you know, where in the spectrum of time we sit and how and what we can learn from each other. How old are you, Quinn?
I am 21. I just turned 21 in May.
Alrighty. Little summer baby.
Yes. Late spring.
John, how old are you?
I am.
Did you say 44?
No, I'm very proud of my age. I'm 56 years old. I'm 56 and a half. I just turned 56 and a half.
Beautiful. Would it be rude to say that's how old my parents are? That's just an observation more than like a comparison.
Yeah.
But
yes, love it.
For perspective.
I'm also 21.
You're older than me though, by about like 8 months or something. Like that. If we're comparing like between the two ages.
Yeah,
what's your sign?
I'm 21 and I'm a Libra.
A Libra.
I'm a Taurus.
And I'm 45.
Mm-hmm.
Plus 15.
Plus 15. Okay.
So I'm 60.
I was thinking like, can we do like a plus or minus? What's the skew?
Well, I can hardly wait for Quinn to come to the next lodge. No. To make it hot.
I go. Smoke it out in there.
All right, there's our ages. Now what, John?
There,
There, we did it.
Are we being judged?
No, I'm not being judged. What was going through my head as far as, you know, when we kind of put this together and thinking about questions, like I was thinking for me, like, what do I want to know from, you know, a generation, you know, younger than I, and that would help me be a better person, a better elder, maybe a better mentor, or even just friend, even to as I meet people, because I'm certainly be meeting people of all ages, cultures, etc., from various situations for our retreats and lodges and things like that. And so I guess I just want to be in the know about things.
Grill us.
Can I make an observation?
Yeah.
Even as we started this conversation, the words queer, gender fluid, even transgender, and I always like to use this as a point of reference
This is good.
because when I came out, right after Brigham Young found the Valley, But the word queer was definitely a disparaging word. Yeah, it was right up there with the N-word. And even today, like when I do a lot of public speaking, if there are, I would say older gay people, but I would say even my generation, there's, and I'm a little bit more flexible because I've been around a lot of college campuses. I've been doing a lot of public interaction stuff, and so I'm a little bit acclimated around this. But the word queer can be really triggering still for older folks. Yeah. If I think about the word transgender, I started my practice in 1996, and transgender as a word and a concept was not widely known. Was
transsexual more known?
Transsexual, transvestite, cross-dressers.
Cross-dressers.
There wasn't a lot of... What's that?
Hermaphrodite.
I don't know that I heard that a lot, but we all knew what that meant. Yeah. But the language, and even at that early time, folks that were exploring issues around gender had a difficult time finding their place at the gay lesbian table. it was a hostile
Mm-hmm.
place.
Mm-hmm.
And it's taken a while and even today, I think there's still a lack of understanding around those identities.
Mm-hmm.
And then genderqueer came out as a concept. Remember that?
No.
Genderqueer was basically people who just weren't adhering to gender stereotypes. So guys might wear a tutu with a tank top, or they would mix up wardrobe or their appearance. But
Gender fucking.
There was that too. But then where we've gotten to this place of non-binary, gender fluidity, transgender, the umbrella of transgender, like identity politics is just constantly evolving.
Right.
And I think it distresses a lot of older folks out, partly because they can't keep up and they always feel like they're messing it up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's where some of my questions lie, is around that expansion of our vocabulary around how we identify ourselves. Because, like you, Jerry, my limited vocabulary, I guess, was just around gay and lesbian. That was like it. Even when I was in college, that's where I came out publicly. I came out publicly in college. I was 19, and we had GALA, which was the Gay and Lesbian Association.
Yeah,
that was it. Yes, bisexual or bi was a term that was kind of out there and used, but when it was kind of, it was very black and white as far a guy is gay, a woman is lesbian. That was it. But now there's this expansion of that, and just like technology, you can kind of get left behind.
Yeah. Well, I honestly think technology has a huge part to play in the reason why identity politics has expanded so much within the past 20 years.
Right.
I mean, I wasn't really on the internet until I was about 14, 15 in that, and I did not have exposure to the language of just even generally gay and lesbian people, because I went to a private Catholic school, and so it wasn't necessarily shamed. It wasn't an institution that really demonized queer people, but it definitely wasn't let's talk about this and give you a safe space to explore.
Right.
And so it was only until I went to high school and met other transgender people and other openly gay people that I actually started to re-examine just things that you take for granted, I guess, within a heteronormative society of, well, I was born this way, so why would I ever think that it would be different, or that I would consider myself to be different than what other people are telling me that I am.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, within technology, I don't know. I think there's this interesting phenomena where people don't know what they are, and so they really want to find the word that perfectly describes everything about them, and so they can find community online about it. And I think it is nice to look for community within those quote unquote boundaries or boxes. I think I used to identify as pansexual, where it's I don't care about gender. I am just attracted to you nonetheless. I don't care about what sex you are. I don't care about what pronouns you use. If I like you, I like you. And I do think that still kind of applies. After I transitioned, for some reason, that label didn't feel quite as accurate, so I just switched to queer, because I think it's a lot easier to be I'm not going to explain it to you. And you can just kind of figure it out.
I like that mystery.
yeah, I like the mystery too. And I also think that with so many super specific labels that people can put on themselves, sometimes it's nice to just be okay, we've gone too far. And I'm taking a step back, and I'm just gonna put queer. And it's not necessarily to shame people who have found those labels that they like to identify with. It just got a little bit too much for me, too niche. And people can really start being well, are you bisexual?
Right.
Are you pansexual?
Yeah.
Prove it to me. Or if you do this thing and this thing and this thing. And so there's a lot of, in my opinion, pointless internet discourse over niche little bits and pieces that make you prove that you are this part of this community, when in general I think all queer people should just be yeah, you're not part of the quote unquote norm or the standard that's expected of you, then you're probably,
Yeah, I see that there's certainly advantages and maybe some disadvantages of the multitude of ways to identify self.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you said, because I've talked to some other young people who they're still kind of figuring out who they are, and they're trying to they're going through the list and trying to like,
Yeah.
is that me? Is that me? Is that because they do want to find their niche and community and group. It's like, oh yeah, that's me. That's where I fit, right? So I think it's helpful in that respect, just to know that I have this opportunity to explore, and there's many ways and opportunities for me to figure out who I am. I think that's an advantage. And the disadvantage is that same, like what you're just saying, wow, there's so many.
Yeah.
It can get confusing, especially I think someone maybe of my age where I can't get it all straight. I can't get it all in my head, and I don't want to get it wrong and offend or just slip up or anything like that, or just not know like what's pan what? Pan queer
right.
what?
Exactly. Just learn your Latin roots a little better.
Yeah, right. That's what it is.
I have worked primarily with queer people for 30 years. And think I'm pretty much on top of things. And a student at the University of Utah was doing this, I don't know how to explain it, but it was basically this intergenerational circle around queerness. And asked if I would be there, and I was sitting there, and like, I'm the oldest one sitting here, so, I guess I'll be elder. But as I was listening, there was kind of a witnessing circle. So we're all sitting in a circle, and each person was kind of like, and they were using language and terms, and I was sitting there thinking, I had no idea this language even existed. And so I think even someone who's kind of like immersed in the community, right? So you were going with a question before I kind of.
Well, we're actually kind of in it now. This has been my question. It's, well, I guess personally, it's.
Forgot about the weed eater.
Yeah, I know. More specifically, let me think. I mean, it is about, identification and how we identify each other or ourselves, really. Is it appropriate? I don't know. Is it appropriate to ask, hey, what are your pronouns? If that's like, is that? Yeah. Like, if I'm just meeting you. For me, that kind of feels a little awkward, but is that an appropriate question?
I think it's the right question to ask if you're curious, because it not only like labels you as a person who is like safe for queer people, even if you like mess up some use pronouns, it's way better than assuming some.
Just assuming,
pronouns. Yeah.
Because I think you touched on something. Because if I did ask the question, what's an internal response from the person I might be asking? Like if I asked you, and I'm just meeting you, oh, hi, Andy. Oh, what are your pronouns?
Well, first off, that's like pretty like affirming for me, because it tells you that like, oh, I'm like, you see me as a genderqueer person, as a gender non-conforming person, but it also labels you as somebody that I can trust within that. Even if you say something a little iffy, like, I still know that you are a person who thinks about these things, who cares about these things.
Yeah, I feel like if an adult asks me that, it tells me that they have observed the reality of what young queer people are like. And I feel like when most young queer people meet each other, one of the first questions you ask is, what are your name and pronouns? It's not just what's your name, it's what is your name and pronouns. It has merged together as, let me get to know you right off the bat, as who you want me to see you as.
Yeah.
As opposed to like it being kind of something that you shy away from. I think queer people and trans people who are first like coming out, that might be a little bit more intimidating, because they might think that there's like expectations that come with that answer. But at least for me personally, I agree with Andy that if like an older person asks me that, it tells me that they are aware of the changing environment, of what pronouns are used, and because like non-binary people are much more like able to explain like where they're coming from, and they're not just immediately shut down. Within at least within like the Western context of things.
So I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about conversations I've had with people just throughout the years, especially like my generation. And a couple of years ago, and I think it's still a movement, you just kind of hear bits and pieces of it. There's kind of a movement to get rid of the labels of LGBTQI, right? So, and I'm not exactly sure what the end desired result is, but it's kind of like it should be obsolete. We shouldn't have to label or identify as LGBTQ. And it makes for an interesting argument. I look at it through kind of an academic lens, and I kind of get it. Yeah. And yet, if I were to talk to people of my generation about that concept, it almost triggers a trauma response.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Because our generation fought hard to get a place at the table. Right. And coming out was a political action.
Yeah.
Right? Because there was a time where people were mostly in the closet, hiding. And so there was a movement of coming out and getting identifying as LGBTQI gave us political clout. And so, I don't know, have you guys heard that discussion?
I haven't, but what comes to mind in my brain is like, if we're talking about intergenerational queerness, I think it's really important that we keep labels like that. They can evolve and grow over time. But we were talking about language and the internet, and that's being part of how we came to like start our identity journeys, is that introduction to language. So I think it's important that we have these labels so that we can acknowledge our like how we got here, and we also provide like a route for future generations of queer people to like be queer.
Yeah. I agree with that.
I agree too, because just what you're just saying, if someone's saying, oh, we should eliminate that, or those terms or those labels are obsolete, it feels like an erasure. It feels like, just being a black individual, and even just what's happening in our administration now, and just trying to put aside Black American history, it feels the same to me as oh, we don't need those terms anymore. Like that's erasing our legacy, our identity, our evolution, and so I'm glad that you agree with that too, because I think it's helpful. We need it. It's history. And it's who we are.
So I have to kind of wonder, like, what do you guys? I don't know how active you are in the broader community, and I think even the concept of community has changed a lot over 30 years, right? But I'm often a little distressed that sometimes one generation fails to understand or conceptualize or support another generation. I'm curious how you guys might have experienced that from older queer folks.
How do you think about us old folks?
I haven't honestly had like a whole lot of experience with intergenerational queerness, mainly because
we're too much fun.
My friends, or not my friends, my parents are not friends with queer people, and my parents are cisgender and heterosexual, and so I didn't really get like just exposure through family and things like that, and so I do feel like this is like the first space I've had where I do have access to older queer people, and I mean like I feel like with conversations like this that it does end up with like the inevitability of the AIDS epidemic, right? Where you just have a whole generation wiped out of being just accessible to younger queer people. And I think that was really devastating for both my generation and millennials, as queer people, and finding their place in a community and having like a broader sense of like ability to have take action as a group of oppressed people, and have power within that like solidarity, essentially. And I think in some ways the internet allowed that solidarity to start building again, but it was more fractured, as opposed to like an organic mentorship from older queer people being like, this is how I came out, and this is how I first started dating boys, and maybe look out for these things and watch out for these things, and this is how you can stay safe. And instead it was kind of like, let's throw all of the people into the ether and see if they can figure it out. Going back to like the label thing, Andy and I were talking about this a little bit on the way over, but I do agree with that. I think abolishing labels in terms of sexuality is not helpful within the context of like late stage capitalism, because then you're like, well, okay, so I'm just a freak and I should not look for people that are like me, and I should just internalize this and shut up about it.
Right.
However, I am a very big proponent of the abolition of gender and gender roles, not sex. I think that sex is a real thing. It's biological. You can change it within like medical contexts and things like that, and like there's intersex people like that, and so it'll always be complicated. But gender specifically, I think, is such a and the way that America perceives gender is such a westernized, monogamous conception of like, well, we need women to do these things so that men can go and do these things and have the freedom to do that. And I think growing up, I always was like, well, that's total bullshit. And like, granted, I did end up being transmasc, and so I'm sure that had a huge role to play in it. But I think that it's not realistic to abolish labels when they're needed to recognize that you're being oppressed by a system.
True. That's good.
And that in some ways, if you abolish that before a real movement comes into place to overthrow the oppression and systems that are in place to encourage hiding in the closet, right, or encourage just never transitioning and things like that, and just staying miserable to keep the status quo. I think that only benefits people who are uncomfortable by our joy.
Our very existence.
Yes, our existence, and then also like that radical joy.
Yeah, that
comes
radical
with,
joy. I love that. Yeah, so true.
Having that label and things like that.
Wow.
But
so, how does one abolish gender?
Stop living under capitalism as a first step. That's why I was like, it's not realistic right now to do that. But it's a future that I would love to dream of, and like.
But I'm trying to conceptualize what that would look like.
It would look like not.
I'm channeling my inner MAGA.
It's kind of like socialism, right? Where I'm like, well, I don't know exactly how every single detail would play out, but in my mind, it's like there's that lack of expectation purely because of your biology to fit within certain standards. Like, there's the very stereotypical of men can't cry, men can't be emotional, men cannot express anything but anger or stoicism, and they have to be hardworking, but they can't work within like feminine industries.
So we have to dismantle patriarchy.
Yes, patriarchy is very much part of it.
To allow for equity.
Yes, yes, definitely. I think the patriarchy is a huge part of it.
Andy's been triggered.
In a good way.
I just had a thought. I was having a conversation with John about less than a year ago, and John described himself as somebody who teaches yoga and somebody who likes to write. And we had this conversation about not labeling these selves as part of your identity, but just something that you do. And I think, to me, like, that's kind of what abolishing gender looks like, is being able to look like, being able to just be the person that you are outside of the gender that you're supposed to be.
Yeah, I remember that conversation. It's about, because when we introduce each other, introduce ourselves, it's often, oh, this is Jerry. He's a psychologist, or he's a social worker. Like, we put that his profession
as a context,
as like part of his identity. And in our conversation, I was saying, well, I'm John, and I'm a person that does this. I work as a, rather than say I am a yogi, I am a therapist. I work as a therapist. I work as a yogi. These are things that I do. So it's like an extraction or outside of me, so that you can see me. And that makes sense. If we can do the same thing with gender, there's no expectations or that automatic slap of a label of, oh, well, you're a man, so a man does this.
Yes, exactly like that. It's much more of a choice and an interpretation rather than an expectation.
In a relationship.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you know, it's interesting, Bruce and I have had this really amazing experience where we have learned and trained with a lot of indigenous healers, medicine people, and we've done that for a long time. And so people inevitably will say, are you a shaman? And we'll reluctantly say yes, because we know it's a point of reference that they get. We would not necessarily identify ourselves as shamans. Right. We would not necessarily identify, like, we know that we've been taught and trained and we carry things in a particular way, but I just don't know that we feel that shaman completely encapsulates that. But for your convenience, yes.
For your convenience. See,
that's how I feel like when I say I'm a man. I'm like, for your convenience, you can see me in this huge box.
I'm just going to dumb it down for you.
Yes, exactly.
Right. So, I'll just ask the questions, John.
Go ahead.
I think I was thinking about this morning. Often there's this dialogue that says, I think there's two things. One, I think a lot of older queer folks do not feel relevant in the lives of younger queer folks. I used to chair SAGE, and I was always pushing for these intergenerational activities and events, because I was hearing from youth or younger folks that they wanted to know where their elders were. And yet the older folks felt like they were no longer relevant, right? Gay men have lost the clout of their sex appeal and their looks, and so they just kind of put themselves on the shelf, right? And I think sometimes that dialogue is shaped around what younger folks can learn from older folks. But I thought, to me, the switch around would be, I wonder what older folks could learn from younger folks.
Absolutely.
Especially in the queer context.
Yeah.
I think it's a very...
Just answer my questions, please.
It's a interesting, like, dynamic between wisdom and, like, hope is not quite the word that I'm thinking of, but like that energy that just comes with being young and like being like, well, I need to do this, and I want the world to look this way, and this is new to me, and so there's like a lot of excitement around that. Whereas at least from what I feel like I've noticed around discussion of like older queer people is that, and well, like, even and just not like heterosexual people as well, that like you get kind of worn down a bit and more settled in routine and things like that. And so
wait, you get worn down as a young person?
No, like an older person was. So like this is from like observations with like conversations with my mom, who is 56, or like just kind of people that are a couple generations older than me. I find that I'll be talking about radical concepts, and they'll be like,
what?
That's a lot of work. And also, like, in some ways, like, never having had that challenge before, in some ways might be too much, and too much of flipping the table over and examining all of, like, the bugs and things that are underneath the rock, and, like, okay, well, how did we actually get here, and what does that radical concept that's really not sitting with me mean, like abolishing gender, for example. Because like, I totally would understand why that would be triggering to some people who worked really hard to be like, get hormone therapy or something like that, because I would never tell a trans person, no, let's just, like, be okay with our biology and, you know, cope with it. Because I think what's interesting about being a trans person is that there is a biological need as well for hormone therapy. It's not just a social thing, and it's not just a cultural thing.
Right.
There's a very real biological aspect to it, which is why I think that makes gender so complicated, because it's tied to sex, but it is not just sex. And so unpacking that can be really uncomfortable for people who haven't had that challenge before.
Yeah.
Where they're like, well, that was a need for me, so why would I need to unpack all the different parts of it that might be much more
boogada.
Yeah, exactly.
Just
kind of airy, idealistic, in you know, like, you know, based in the thought and the mind process, as opposed to based in material conditions and how you experience the body. Because I do think they overlap, but there is a difference between the two.
Yeah,
I'm liking this because it's reminding me of, was it our last episode? We talked about just life experience and just being able to, because I think we were talking about relationships, and just being able to, I'm just listening to you, it's like I'm leaning in because I want to, this is what I want to know.
Yeah.
And what your perspective is around, you know, like gender fluidity and living as a trans person, and it's not just social and cultural, it's biological. It's like, oh, I want to know about this because I want to know your life experience, your human experience. That's going to help me, and I think that's going to help, you know, people of a certain generation maybe understand people of a younger generation, perhaps, if they just listen.
Yeah.
There's just a
listening is a huge thing for sure. I think Andi had something.
Well, while you were talking, I was thinking about, like, what I would like to learn from you guys, and a lot of that is, like, we're still fighting. Like, you guys did a lot of fighting for us, but we're still fighting, and I think that a lot of young queer people would benefit, like, from the queer eldership of teaching us how to fight.
Yes, I 100% agree with that.
Wow.
Especially because, like, as someone who's trying to organize people to, like, get back into the fight and know how to successfully and efficiently do that fight of, like, you know, whether it's political or social or cultural, like, I do think we've lost momentum a little bit in terms of seeing where we're going.
Yeah.
You know, I was kind of thinking that for a moment as you were talking, and John, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sorry I'm having to lean in. I'm probably not looking at the camera, but I'm literally melting
right,
over here.
right in the sun.
You can tilt your chair.
I'm thinking back in our coming of age, right? Like, part of community was activism. Like, a lot of people that I know today were people that we met out at protest and at protest organizing meetings, and whether we were organizing for the rights for queer folks to adopt children, to marriage equality, to anti-discrimination, right? It's like, oh, let's go see who's going to be at the next rally.
Yeah, when it's like a common fight.
And what's interesting is, I think in many ways the fight defined our sense of identity, right?
For sure.
I want legitimacy in my marriage. I want marriage equality, and so I'm really promoting that part of my identity. I want a fair shake in the workplace. I don't want to be discriminated against because of my perceived gender or sexual orientation, right? And so the sense of identity, I think, was very much a part of that political process. And we found a lot of confirmation in our relationships with each other around the validity of those needs. Whereas maybe the generations before us, if you think about it, the activism around HIV and AIDS, which was like in the 80s, was about our survival.
Yeah.
So we went from survival to a sense of inclusion and equity. And so now the platform for activism is what?
I feel like we're going back to survival a little bit.
Really?
I mean, because marriage equality is already back on the chopping board in the Supreme Court. They are looking to, I don't remember the case.
It's been proposed, but it hasn't been accepted on
but it's been.
There's a whisper out there,
yes,
right? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. And just equity and inclusion. I mean, so that certainly is like, we're paying attention.
You're woke.
Yeah,
But I would suggest, especially when it comes to gender and transgender issues and identity. See, to me, that's where the survival piece is. I'm not worried about marriage equality, and I've said this on the podcast before. We always thrive under diversity. We thrive under adversity.
Oh, adversity. I mean,
Yeah.
diversity too.
but we do since the dawn of Christianity, they've tried to get rid of us, and we just keep popping up, and we pop up stronger. Yeah. But when I think about what's happening politically around identity politics, around just simply using a preferred name and a preferred pronoun, right? That becomes, to me, where the transgender movement is politically is where we found ourselves 30 years ago as gays and lesbians, right?
That makes sense.
And unfortunately, I think what's different is social media has fanned this flame of fear. And in the place of fear, where we collapse in the arm of capitalism is we want someone else to take care of it.
Yes.
And so I know in my office, I'm like, okay, I hear you whining about how awful this is. What exactly have you done? And until you get off your ass, I'm not interested in hearing your story. Like, get the fuck up.
Yeah.
Because that's what we had to do. We dared to get arrested. We dared to get beat up. We dared to put our lives on the line to show up and to be seen and to be counted. And I think that dynamic, we're right back at that dynamic. And I think part of where this conversation could go, right, across the generations is I think there are a lot of gay, lesbian, bisexual people who do not really understand what's happening in the queer revolution around identity, right? You want to get rid of gay and lesbian? What's gender? What's non-binary? And those may seem like very common sense kinds of understandings from your generation, but there's a generation that hasn't had access to information, access to youth, right? Like, to me, the dilemma is how do we bridge the places of understanding?
Yeah.
There's serious damage to our community, and that's not just like older gays or younger gays, but it's all of us, and it's all of us as we relate to each other.
Yep. Yeah. And I think the political divisiveness has fueled our inability to be in a place of empathy and understanding, because we're all trying to protect our piece of the pie.
I do think that within the past 25 years, at least from what I've noticed, is that people who did fight, and this is more particularly like white, more wealthy people, but they got comfortable, right? And so then they see that younger people are trying to start this fight again, and they're like, whoa, but we already got, we got this marriage equality, and we got, anti-discrimination laws and things like that. Why are you trying to start the fight again? you might uproot everything.
Yeah.
And you might topple the whole thing rather than build a stronger foundation.
Is it because there is a misunderstanding or not enough information that there is something to fight for now?
I think it's like almost like pulling a blanket over the eyes of like, once you feel like you've secured things for yourself, you stop looking for where people still need to be upheld and where the fight still needs to be fought.
And I would like to say that when you we're not just fighting for transgender survival at this point. When we're fighting for transgender survival, we're fighting for everybody.
Everybody. And that's something to really remember and keep in mind, that it's just not this little segment of the population. This is about humanity.
Yeah, and I think it's so interesting, the difference between like the sexuality fight versus the gender fight that's happening now, because I feel like the sexuality fight like put a different lens on how people view culture and view human relationships, but the gender fight upheaves everything that's been developed for the past 200 years.
I've been thinking about this, and we talked about like what older queers can learn from younger queers, and the thing that came to my mind was we are a product of all the work that you guys did, but also all of the work from the feminism movement, all of the work from the civil rights movement. Like we're here because as a product from all of these different movements, and I lost my train of thought.
No, that was the train of thought. We can't silo the discussion around civil rights, and the only one who stand to lose are the white, straight, cisgender guys. They're going to lose that dominance and that power that they've
superiority.
That capitalism was built around.
And people talk about like the male loneliness epidemic, and that is a product of not these movements, not feminism, not gay rights. It's a product of patriarchy. So I would just like to add that in, is cis het white males are not losing anything. In the long run, they're gaining something. They're gaining expansion. Like, I really believe that queerness is liberating. Gayness is liberating. And it doesn't have to just be liberating for queer people.
Yes,
exactly.
Could you imagine getting offered a job? It's like, Mr. John, I like your resume. We would really like to hire you, except we're going to have to pay you the wages that we budgeted to hire a female in that role. So instead of getting that $15 an hour, you're going to get $14.75. Are you okay with that?
My.
I feel like by flattening the playing field, though, you have the opportunity to raise everybody up at the same level. But it does have to be flattened first, and that's the scary part for a lot of people. It's like, well, okay, you're starting over, but you're working towards something so much bigger.
And we're not starting over.
And you're right, and you're not starting over. It just feels, because it's so new and so revolutionary to what has been like propagandized and just drilled into everyone's minds in America of what should be and how it's going to be, and anything outside of that is just ridiculous.
First comes the intellectual enlightenment, and then comes the enlightenment.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a really nerdy thing.
When I think about the earlier days when we were active in the politics and the civil rights stuff, we had phone trees.
Phone trees. I don't know what that is.
So basically,
a learning moment.
John would call me and say, "There's a rally at the Capitol Thursday at 7." Then I would call 4 of my friends and say,
spread it like that.
And so, and actually, Gail Rizika in the Eagle Forum, her phone tree system was frightening, like legislators, and they won't admit this, but the legislative system was in utter fear of the Eagle Forum because they were so efficient in getting the word out.
Get the word out.
But the difference today is back then, getting the word out was a personal connection.
You're
And
building
a person-
community just
That
by
makes sense.
Exactly.
Rather than a
Versus
mass
social
text.
media
Yeah.
saying, hey, we're doing this thing,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
I know when I look at events on Facebook, I think, is that going to be a real thing, or is that a pretend? Like, you
Yeah.
just never know the legitimacy of it. I know there's been a couple of, I think it was earlier this year, there were a couple of pretty significant protests around transgender issues and Trump and blah, blah, blah. And in some of the cases, I thought, oh, this is going to bring out hundreds of people, and there would be like 100. And then things I thought were going to get no traction had huge traction. But what's interesting is I think social media has diluted the sense of community and connection.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I'm not exactly sure how you revitalize the idea of human connection. You know, John and I do these retreats, and it's interesting in the queer community, there's a lot of apprehension. We'll show up at our white and black parties. We'll show up at our sex parties. But the idea of sitting down and talking and getting to know you.
That's terrifying.
Gasp.
Yeah.
And yet, at one point in our history, that was just how it was.
This is how it was.
Right?
Yeah.
We had our clubs, and I wouldn't say our clubs were more social than they are now. But what there was besides the clubs was these pockets of people, and you knew you could show up for Sunday brunch and there'd be 14 of your friends there. Or you could go to John's house and there'd be a barbecue, and those things were much more
organic,
and they were your lifeline. You didn't miss those events because during the week you didn't know if you're going to see another gay person or not.
And they're still our lifeline, but it's been cut.
Yeah.
That honestly, Armed Queers has really given me like a space for that, which is really nice. And what's nice is that it's purposeful and intentional on we're going to do this thing and it's going to move us forward in this way. So like, for example, it's Black August, which is a communist, like essentially like Lent in a ways. It was created by the Black Apology. I just spilled on you a little. Created by the Black Panther Party to like essentially focus on study and training and focusing the mind on what am I going to contribute for the movement and the things that I want to work for. So one of the things that we're going to do, and unfortunately I'm out of town for this, so I'm a little disappointed, but we're writing to political prisoners. And like, yeah, it's going to be an Armed Queers thing, so I know that there's going to be the people that I've been seeing for the past, half a year or so, or a year. But we're extending it to the public. And what's nice to me is that, yeah, I know I'm going to see these 14 people, but I might meet a couple new people. And I think we really, really try and specify that connection that has been severed. Like, we're really trying to get people to just talk and learn and get to know each other and things like that. And AQ is like, I would say it spans about 10 years. So there's like 2 generations. It's mostly Gen Z and millennials. I think the oldest person is about 32, 33, something like that. So we have people who are still in school and then people who have finished school and now have like established themselves in a career. But I think there is like, we want older people to join and give that perspective that you guys are talking about of like having fought that fight already in the 80s and 90s.
I think what's interesting, both of you have been to Lodge, and right, there's up to 30 people that will show up. And I don't think that's just an amplification of, oh, let's go to Sweat Lodge.
Right.
Because what people, what happens? They sit at that table and they're talking and they're visiting and there's lots of socializing. And afterwards I have to like, I'm going to bed now, everyone leave. Right? I think there is that sense of, and that hunger, and this is a very eclectic crowd, right? Cis, trans, gay, hetero, right? Like, I think our society in general is starving for communal connections.
Yes.
And I would argue that our queer community needs to find a way of embracing intergenerational connections.
I have a question. Like, what is the route, do we think, of actually building these connections, actually building intergenerational communities? Because one thing, building community is hard in the first place.
Yes.
No, it's not.
It takes a lot of effort. Maybe that's a better way of phrasing it. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of consistency. But how do we extend that so that we are building intergenerational community?
What comes to mind, I'm really zeroing in on that interpersonal. We've got, social media has really diluted the effort, the capability, I think, to have these small circles and communities of people. We advertise something, put it on TikTok or whatever, and just hope for the best,
Right.
rather than like a phone tree effect where you actually call and talk to somebody and invite and include. And so I wanted, maybe that's part of the equation, the more interpersonal.
Just having a conversation.
Yeah, like this. And then something that can maybe spur from this, let's say, is, hey, let's do something together. What do you guys like to do? Like, we go hiking or we go bowling or whatever. It doesn't matter what, right? We just go out and do something, and the conversation just continues. We get to know each other better. And then, like you said, you'll see your 14 folks, and you'll meet another.
Yes.
You'll meet another. And the fold just widens, right? That's just kind of the process I'm kind of seeing in my head.
And what I like heard from that is just having the courage to reach out to others.
Yeah.
And have like conversations as opposed to letters.
I would argue, as a shaman, that it starts with vision. If this group gets organized and functional, it will accomplish what? What is it that we seek to connect?
Yes.
Intergenerational connections, activism, relationship. Like, what are we seeking to foster? And I would argue even some of our mainstream organizations here in Salt Lake City have lost their vision, and they're floundering as organizations because part of their vision is built around the poor me story. We're a victim of this, we're a victim of that, or nobody loves us, no one validates us. And it's like, fuck that bullshit. That's all a distraction. Find vision. You want to be powerful? What does that look like?
I 100% agree.
What does it look like to be a powerful being that fully encompasses your sense of identity, your sense of knowingness of who you are? What does that look like?
So what I heard from that is fostering like community based on vision, that's based in like power and what we actually want to be, rather than
what we think we're allowed,
rather than victimization.
Or also like, I think a lot of those things that are being built are just as like a opposition to like loneliness or whatever, instead of as something to build something. Like it has to be both.
Instead of the Lonely Hearts group, we're going to be the interconnected galaxy.
We're going to
be
right.
We're going to be the queer joy group.
Yeah.
I tell people affirmations are built around action, productivity, and positive statements. Right. So not we're the anti-depression group. We're the finding joy group.
Yeah.
Right.
Building a life worth living. As
what is it that I'm seeking to manifest? Mindfully Gay, right, is about bringing queer men together in an interconnected body, mind, spirit paradigm, right? To celebrate and be sex and body positive, but to also recognize that we're soul positive, that we're spirit positive, that we're mindfulness positive, that there's so much more to our magic than what we do with our magic wands.
Yeah,
for sure.
and what happens, like at a retreat or even just at other functions, with that in mind, when we see that power within each other and then empower each other, then we can take that out into the world. Into the world, even just into our regular and daily activities. That as a way of living, and establishing a vision, like, wow, we're powerful people, we got to do something.
Yeah.
Let's put something together here.
It's crazy how that will change a person,
Right.
Because like, as someone who has like really bad mental health history and things like that, even just having joined this like one group that I've been referencing this past hour or so that we've been talking, it has very much given me like a wow, I actually feel like happy and communicate and like connected to people in Salt Lake, because we have like a high school friend group and we're all queer, but I do feel like sometimes we very much wallow in that like
Life sucks.
we're very oppressed and we're so like life sucks and I don't know how this is going to get better. And like I don't think that's necessarily the only thing we connect off of, but in high school that was a very like prevalent thing, and because there was just so much else going on that the idea of creating a vision to do something was like, that's way too much. I'm just a guy, I don't know how to do that. Whereas now it's like I find myself thinking of like looking for opportunities to build a connection and to take action and move forward and things like that. And it's not just like necessarily even community building, it's like education, like where can I teach myself so I can expand my perspective and bring others into that. And it's been very revitalizing. I feel it's refreshing, I think, from having been surrounded by those like kind of liberal ideologies of like, oh, I'm really oppressed and I don't know what to do about it, and so I'm gonna be sad and find other people and we'll all be sad together but not do anything about it.
Do you know what though? Some of the most invigorating, exciting moments in my gay identity was in that groundbreaking getting in there and fighting.
Yes,
like
for sure.
Like it was very invigorating. It was very stimulating. It was like I said, I've got relationships that are as old as I am, based on that level of activism. And election cycles would be depressing, and there would be moments where you just think all was lost, but again we would just rally it with because the vision was, we knew our day was coming. And we knew it. There's just no way that status quo was going to exist. The power of evolution was going to take us there, if anything.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing when it comes to trans identities too, right? If for every person whining about the situation just got empowered by it, it would shut it down in a heartbeat.
Sure would.
And that's not to be callous to the struggle. It's just, I'm not invested in the story that says we can't do anything.
Yes.
Donald Trump is going to fart one day and die.
I love that. I need that tattooed as a trim. That's great. I love that. Well, and I think it's also like, especially because when Donald Trump was first elected, that was like, what, 2016, 2015, something like that. I was in 6th grade. I was 12. So it's been 10 years of me.
You weren't in 6th grade. You were in 7th grade.
Oh, the election started when I was in 6th grade. I have a very clear memory. I was living in Japan for half a year, and all these people were like, "Did you vote for Donald Trump?"
Like, I'm 12.
Right, exactly. Well, because it was like an international school, so they didn't quite know how like elections worked in America or whatever. But I remember
somebody listening to this podcast just like clicked how young we are.
Like, oh,
yeah,
you were 12.
Yeah, no, exactly. And so like having grown up within that, like, oh well, he's gonna be here forever. And people like him are going to be here forever. It's like, yeah, maybe, but the fight will still be there as well. And it, like, it's only going to go away when we say it's going to go away.
I will say this with you younger folks here. The demographic least likely to vote is yours.
Yes.
Not our specific demographic, but like young people.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's amazing to me that we have these college people going to school, getting an education, outrage, protesting, because it's the thing to do, but they won't cast a vote.
I agree with that, but I also think it's a loss of faith in the system that we currently have.
Yeah.
Because I did vote, in this past election cycle, but I do know people who didn't. When a lover of mine set fire to his ballot, he was so angry.
Wow.
He was so angry.
Feeling so disillusioned.
Yeah.
Like, my vote won't count. I see.
I don't think it was even like a my vote won't count. It's a I hate this system, I radically oppose it, and I would rather participate in anything but perpetuating this system.
Wow.
And I think that's a mistranslation of
apathy.
Sorry, I think that the rhetoric around young people not caring or not voting because whatever reason is a mistranslation of us understanding that this is bullshit.
Yeah. Disillusionment.
Yes, and but it's very often young people aren't voting because they know that their vote doesn't matter, or they've been made to feel like their vote doesn't matter.
Right, and so what they need to understand is in the lack of activity,
yes,
the apathy,
yes,
is in fact a vote in probably the direction you don't want it to be.
Yeah. No, I concur. I mean, I definitely wouldn't say only not participating in the system is not the. If you're going to do that, you cannot only do that. You have to be working almost around the clock. If you want to counterbalance the action of not participating in the system, you have to be working towards another system to bring in.
Yes.
Because if you don't, just saying, well, I abstain, doesn't do anything. It keeps the system in place and it enforces it, like you're saying.
Yeah.
Because then the people that do participate in the system will entrench it deeper and deeper.
I can give you an interesting example so we obviously live in a Republican state,
right.
And a lot of times those who are not Republican feel like their voices are never heard.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, it wasn't the last election, maybe the one before that, that even though it still went Republican, the numbers shifted dramatically enough that the Republicans got nervous.
Yes.
Because it was something that they thought was so locked in, suddenly felt a little bit challenged. Yeah. And so, as a veteran, as somebody who served, and I know there's people who gave up their lives for us to have a right to vote.
What did you serve in?
Air Force.
That's the gay one, right?
It's the Navy.
Oh my God. We dress sensibly.
Well, you're not wearing super tight pants.
But my
I
point
forgot
is,
they're all the gay ones.
Right now, the system that we have, and the system, frankly, that we're trying to protect is democracy.
Right.
And the only way you're going to protect democracy is to challenge those who think their power is finite. That was a 2-hour podcast.
But our conversation's just getting good.
It's just getting good. But
Maybe 40 more minutes.
Right. We may have to do a part 2 of this one. This has been very stimulating, very eye-opening, invigorating, empowering. Just having this conversation, getting into the nitty-gritty of how we think, how we are doing our lives, how we can bring our lives together, collaborate, have visionary experiences, all of that. It starts every time we do this podcast, Jerry and I say, join the conversation. This is it.
Yes.
Hopefully we're emulating what it can look like, what it can sound like when you just sit down with a couple of friends, or even people you just want to get to know a little bit better. Start asking questions, lean in, listen.
I definitely would say that I was nervous is the wrong word, but I was I've never been on a podcast before. But I don't know if I've met you before. If I have, I'm really bad with faces and names. I know I've met Jerry before, but I knew that it was going to be a safe space to just talk and shoot the shit, etc. and I just because I haven't had intergenerational conversations like this before, but I think I've had like practice of similar ones enough that just doing it kind of makes it less intimidating the more you do it.
Listen up, folks. He's saying some wise shit on here. You hear John say, like, join the conversation? He's talking about you.
Be the conversation.
Be the conversation. I know you're scared. We're also scared.
We're just little freaks. It's okay.
It's okay. It's absolutely okay.
I have this doll in my office. It's a freak,
Mm-hmm.
but his name is Beautiful Freak.
Oh,
yeah.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to meet him.
Well, I think that's it for now. We are going to continue this conversation off camera. So please join the conversation. If you have thoughts or ideas about what we've talked about, please drop us a note on Instagram. We are mindfully_gay. TikTok is just mindfully gay. Go to mindfullygay.com. That's our website. You'll see our activities on there, or even just if you want to be a guest on the show, reach out to us. There's lots of ways you can be a part of this conversation, but you can do what we're doing even in your community, in your home, at your coffee shop, wherever you like to congregate. Just keep it going. Empower yourself, empower each other. Thank you for tuning in to the Mindfully Gay podcast. We hope this conversation sparked reflection and connection wherever you are on your queer journey.
We'd love to hear your story. Share your thoughts with us on Instagram at mindfully_gay and visit mindfullygay.com for details about our upcoming social events and retreats.
If this episode spoke to you, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It helps others in our community find these conversations.
Until next time, stay mindful, stay proud, and keep building bridges that connect our queer past, present, and future.